Some people wait their whole lives for a break. Me? Mine came on a Tuesday, wrapped in static, sidewalk dust, and a song I almost didn't play. Funny how everything can change before you even realize anyone's listening. You ever play your heart out for a crowd that never stops to listen? That was my daily routine. I was 26, living out of a one-room studio over a laundromat that never closed, in a part of the city where sirens were more common than silence. Every morning, I dragged my scuffed-up acoustic guitar to the same corner on Lexington and 5th, outside the bodega with the flickering neon, open sign, and the cranky owner who let me lean against his wall as long as I didn't sing that sad crap. Before noon, I had a milk crate for tips, a backpack with an extra hoodie, and one pair of boots held together by prayer and packing tape. But I had music. That was something. Most people passed by without looking. Some dropped coins. Some dropped words. Not always kind ones. But I kept playing. I told myself it was practice, that the sidewalk was my stage. That grit built greatness. Truth? I was broke and tired, and on more than one occasion, I thought about pawning the guitar and getting a job at the gas station down the block. But every time I tightened those strings, something inside me loosened, like I was tuning my soul back into place. That's where I was the morning it all changed. Gray sky, bit of wind. I was halfway through a song I wrote called Rust in the Rain, slow, moody, finger-picking with a steady drone in D minor, when this guy walked up and stopped. That alone was weird. People never stopped. He was in jeans and a tan leather jacket that probably cost more than my month's rent. Dark sunglasses, even though the sun hadn't shown its face in 2 days. And something about the way he stood there, hands in his pockets, head tilted slightly, told me he wasn't just another pedestrian. I played through to the end. Didn't rush. Didn't look up. I wanted the song to speak before I did. When I finished, he clapped once. Just once. Sharp. Like a snap. You wrote that? He asked. Yeah, I said, watching him closely. Why? He didn't answer right away. Just reached into his coat, pulled out a card, and held it out. Black, thick, no logo. Just a name and a number. Call me, he said. Today. Then he turned and walked off. Didn't drop money. Didn't smile. Just disappeared into the crowd like a ghost in designer boots. I looked down at the card. Gavin Rourke. Reflight Studios. My heart kicked once, then again harder. I'd heard of Reflight. Everyone trying to make it had. They were underground royalty, known for spotting talent before anyone else. The kind of place where deals happened in private rooms, and platinum hits came out of basements with bad lighting and good acoustics. I stared at the card like it might vanish. For 10 full minutes, I didn't move. Then I packed up my guitar, shoved everything into my backpack, and ran home so fast my lungs felt like they were bleeding. I stared at that card for another hour before I dialed the number. It rang once. Then twice. Then a voice answered. Rourke. I swallowed. This is, the guy on Lexington. With the guitar. A pause. I know who you are. You free tonight? Depends. On what? Whether this is real, I said. He chuckled. Low and easy. It's real. Studios on 45th and Delancey. 8 p.m. Bring your guitar. And be ready to work. The line went dead. I looked at the phone, then at my beat-up case. My hands were still shaking. That night, I showed up 20 minutes early. The building didn't look like much from the outside. Just a brick front with an iron door and no windows. I almost thought I had the wrong place until it buzzed open without me touching anything. Inside, the air was warm, heavy with the scent of wood and coffee and old vinyl. The walls were covered in soundproofing foam and photographs, grainy, black and white shots of people I didn't recognize but somehow knew were important. Gavin met me in the hall. No jacket this time, just a black t-shirt, jeans, and bare feet. He walked like he owned the place, because he probably did. Follow me, he said. I did. He led me into a dim recording booth the size of my apartment. Mic stand in the center, chair in the corner, a console behind glass where someone sat fiddling with dials and sliders. You got one shot, Gavin said. Play me something I won't forget. My throat went dry. I sat, took out my guitar, fingers trembling. I played Rust in the Rain again, but slower, more deliberate. I felt every note like it had teeth. When I finished, no one said anything for a moment. Then Gavin turned to the guy behind the glass, nodded once. The guy hit a button. You just found your break, kid, he said through the speaker. Don't screw it up. And that was the beginning of everything. The door clicked shut behind me, sealing the soundproof room like a vault. My heart thudded so loud I was sure it was leaking into the mic. Gavin stared at me through the glass, arms crossed, face unreadable. The guy next to him, bald, thick beard, wearing a Wu-Tang hoodie and sipping something from a stainless steel thermos, leaned into his mic and said, play another. I blinked. You want a different one? No, he said. Same song. But this time, believe it. I didn't understand what that meant at first. I just poured everything into it. But then I closed my eyes and thought about the nights I'd played that song alone in the dark, no audience, no milk crate, just me and the sound of rain slapping the window, the weight of everything pressing down on my ribs. I strummed softer, sang like it hurt, and this time, it did. When the last chord rang out, I didn't open my eyes right away. I let the silence settle, let the moment breathe. Then I heard the static pop of the mic again. "That's it," the man said. "That's the one we're chasing." Gavin's voice came next. "Come out." I stepped into the control room. It smelled like ozone and old coffee. The air buzzed like something holy had just happened. "This is Trey," Gavin said, nodding to the bearded guy. "Producer. Yours better than mine." Trey offered a quick handshake. "Your voice is weight," he said. "Not polish, not range." "Wait, you don't teach that." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. Gavin sat on the edge of the console. "Here's the deal. You've got something. It's raw. It's got pain in the right places. But talent without direction? That's just noise. You want to make this real. You need to show up every day. Like this matters more than sleep." "It does," I said, too fast. He smiled slightly. "Good. We'll start tomorrow. Noon. You'll write. You'll record. We'll tear your guts out and see what's left that's worth putting on tape." He slid a piece of paper toward me. An NDA. Standard. I barely skimmed it before signing. What was I going to do? Walk. "Also," he added, "you got somewhere to crash?" I hesitated. He raised an eyebrow. "My place isn't exactly safe," he offered. I nodded. He looked at Trey. "We got the back loft open?" Trey shrugged. "Haven't cleaned it in a month." Gavin turned back to me. "There's a couch, fridge, bathroom. Keys are in the kitchen drawer. Don't steal anything." "I won't," I said. "Good," he said, standing. "Then welcome to the grind." That night, I lay on a saga couch in a room that smelled like cables and dust and hope, staring at the ceiling with my guitar on my chest. For the first time in years, I felt like I was inside the dream, not just pressing my nose to the glass. But dreams don't come easy. The next morning was a punch to the soul. Trey woke me up with a speaker test, full volume, bass like a heartbeat in a hurricane. I stumbled out, hair a mess, throat dry, trying to remember if I'd actually signed my life away. "You drink coffee?" Trey asked, not looking up. "Yeah." He tossed me a thermos. "Don't drink it all, and don't be late again." It was 11:59. The next 3 weeks were brutal. I sang until my voice cracked, wrote until my fingers cramped. They made me rewrite verses 5 times because a line didn't land emotionally. Trey once made me sit in a dark booth for 2 hours just to see if isolation sharpened the take. It did. Gavin wasn't around much. When he was, he watched from the shadows, literally. Sat in the back, said nothing, just stared like he was watching a code form in real time. But when he did speak, it mattered. "This track," he said one afternoon, tapping a waveform on the screen. "This track will make or break you. It's the one." It was a new song, one I wrote after sleeping 2 hours and waking up to the sound of sirens down the block. It was called Window Fire, just 2 chords, but the lyrics felt like confessionals scratched in glass. We recorded it 12 times. Trey finally hit the spacebar and said, "Cut." The last take hung in the air like smoke. "That's the one," he whispered. Later that night, I stood on the roof of the studio with a half-warm beer and a chill in my bones. I could see the whole skyline, broken up by scaffolding and water towers. It looked like a city caught between exhale and collapse. Gavin joined me, didn't speak at first, just lit a cigarette and stared at the horizon. "You're hungry," he said finally. "Yeah." "You're scared, too." "More than I want to admit." He nodded. "Good. That's where the real shit lives." Then he turned and walked away, smoke trailing behind him like a punctuation mark. I didn't sleep much that night, because for the first time in my life, I knew this wasn't luck. This was the cost of the door I just walked through. The first time I heard my voice coming through real studio monitors, I didn't recognize it. It wasn't just louder, it was full, rich, textured, like the sound had grown a spine. The kind of clarity that made me sit back and stare at the speakers like they were telling me a secret. Window Fire was finished, and it was beautiful. Trey didn't say much after the final master bounced, just nodded and added it to a folder titled Debut Tracks, Rourke Prospect. Prospect, that's what he called me now. Not kid, not busker, not hey you with the beard. Prospect, which sounded dangerously close to potential. By week 4, I was working out of the studio 5, sometimes 6 days a week. Gavin brought in a vocal coach named Lena, 60, ruthless, dressed in all black like she taught crows to sing. "You're not breathing," she'd say mid-verse. "You're leaking air like a punctured tire." She was right, but it hurt to hear. And it only got worse when Gavin started pushing me to perform live. "You can't hide behind tape forever," he told me over coffee one day. "You need to know what it feels like to bleed in real time." He booked me a spot at a small showcase downtown, intimate venue, industry crowd. The kind of place where one wrong note means 3 weeks of silence, and one right one means a handshake that changes your rent. I didn't sleep for 2 nights before it. I practiced and practiced. My fingers were blistered. My voice was frayed. My brain was fried. But nothing prepared me for the lights. That night, the green room smelled like sweat and nerves. I sat on a folding chair staring at my boots, trying not to count the minutes. Gavin leaned in through the curtain. "You ready?" "No." He smiled. "Perfect." The room was packed. Low ceilings, brick walls, people shoulder to shoulder, drinks in hand, phones in pockets, waiting to be impressed or disappointed. My name got announced like it meant something. New voice out of Reflight Studios. "Give it up for Jay." Just Jay. Not even my full name. Gavin said it was cleaner. I walked up with my guitar. The mic stand was crooked. My heart was worse. I played Rust in the Rain first, then Window Fire, then one more, newer one, that didn't even have a name yet. Just verses about regret and doorways and how some days feel like you woke up inside someone else's story. When I finished, the silence felt like judgment. Then someone clapped. Another. Then a wave. It wasn't thunderous. It wasn't manic, but it was real. And it reached me. After, in the alley behind the venue, Gavin handed me a flask and a nod. 3 reps asked about you, he said. None of them from garbage houses. I took a pull. The whiskey burned less than I expected. What now? I asked. Now. He looked at me like it was obvious. Now we make the album. The word album hit me like a freight train. A week later, we were deep in it, writing, rewriting, recording again. I lived in the studio now, literally. My stuff migrated from the couch to a corner room with a mattress on the floor and an old desk someone had carved lyrics into. I didn't mind. It felt sacred. Trey brought in a drummer, then a cellist, then a guy who played the harmonium like it was a living thing. We layered, stripped, relayered. Sometimes I'd sing the same line 16 times just to find the one take where it didn't sound afraid. And the songs? They were getting good. That's what scared me most. Because with every new take, I could feel the old me slipping further behind. No more sidewalk. No more milk crate. No more leaning against brick walls hoping someone heard the pain between my chords. Now the pain was polished, tracked, quantized. One night, I woke up with the worst thought I'd ever had. What if I lose whatever made them stop and listen in the first place? That next morning, I didn't go to the studio. I took my guitar down to Lexington and 5th, sat right where I used to. Same spot, same air. And I played. For 2 hours. I just played. People walked past. 1 or 2 smiled. One kid dropped $1 and whispered, "You're really good." But it wasn't about the tips. It was about remembering who I was before all this. And when I finally packed up and stood to leave, there was a man across the street. Sunglasses, suit, talking into a phone, but watching me. He saw me see him, then stepped into a black car and disappeared. Back at the studio, Gavin was waiting. "You go somewhere?" he asked. "Yeah." He nodded slowly. "You saw him, didn't you?" That stopped me cold. "You know who that was?" "Label rep," Gavin said. "He's been circling." I sat down, heart climbing. "He followed me?" "No, he's watching. It's what they do when they want something but haven't decided how to take it yet." I swallowed. "You gonna sign me?" "That's not how this works," he said. "You sign them, and only when you know what you're giving up." Then he dropped a file on the table, thick, paper-clipped, highlighted. The front page read, "Artist Development Agreement, Ember Records." "Take your time," he said. "Read every line, and ask yourself, do you want to be heard or owned?" That night, I sat alone with the contract. The clock ticked, the fridge buzzed, and every sentence read like a promise I'd have to bleed for. The first thing you need to understand about contracts? They're not made of paper. They're made of leverage. That's what I learned sitting on that creaky studio mattress, highlighter in hand, surrounded by empty coffee cups and questions I didn't know how to ask. The Ember Records contract was 29 pages long. The first 5 were flattery. The next 20 were chains. Advance, $150,000. 3-album deal. Creative input, subject to label approval. Ownership? Let's just say I'd be borrowing my own songs every time they played on the radio. I flipped back to the first page. Again, it didn't say trap in bold letters. But it didn't have to. I took the contract to Gavin the next morning. He was in the kitchen, making eggs like a man who'd forgotten the world was watching. "Tell me straight," I said. "Would you sign this?" He didn't look up, just cracked another egg. "I did, once. And I spent 3 years making someone else's version of my music. Then another 2 paying back the advance they gave me for the privilege. So why even show me this?" He slid the eggs onto a plate. "Because if I burn every bridge before you cross it, I'm not a minner. I'm a prison guard." I didn't eat, didn't move, just sat there with that contract in my lap and the weight of a future I didn't want to mortgage. That night, Gavin took me to a party, said it was good networking, which I learned meant a test you can't study for. It was in a loft with exposed brick and too many candles. Music execs mingled with influencers and people who wore sunglasses indoors like it was a personality trait. The kind of room where everyone talks louder than necessary and no one listens unless the cameras are rolling. Gavin disappeared into the crowd. I stood near the bar, sipping club soda, trying to blend in without being swallowed. That's when she found me. Tall, black dress, sharp smile, mid-30s. Walked like she knew people signed things when she entered a room. "Jay," she said, like we were already on familiar terms. "Amara. Ember's senior A&R. I shook her hand. "Been hearing good things," she said, eyes scanning me like I was a catalog item. "You've got something rough, but digestible." "Thanks, I think." She leaned in, close enough for her voice to drop below the music. "You say no to us, someone else will sign you. That's fine, but we know how to make you last, not just trend. Legacy." I blinked. "You haven't even heard the full album yet." She smiled. "Doesn't matter. The story's more important than the songs." That made something twist in my gut. She handed me a card, platinum edge. No logo. Call me when you're tired of waiting on purity to pay the rent. Then she vanished into the glitter. Outside, the air was cooler, quieter. I sat on the curb and stared at her card like it might start a fire. Trey joined me 10 minutes later. You all right? She said the story matters more than the music. He nodded. Yeah, that's how they think. Narrative sells. Pain's just a seasoning. Then what the hell are we doing? I asked. Trying to keep your story yours, he said. For as long as we can. 2 weeks passed. The contract sat in a drawer and signed, but it stared at me every day like an accusation. We kept recording, added 3 new tracks. One of them, Backdoor Light, was a fingerpick ballad about the time I almost left music for good. Gavin called it the core of the record. Trey sent it to a friend at a small indie label. Word spread. People started whispering. A week later, I was invited to an industry event, another live showcase. Bigger venue, more eyes. I said yes, and that's when it all started to crack. Day of the showcase, my throat started tightening. No fever, just this raw, scratchy burn. Lena made me drink this weird ginger clove tea and do vocal warm-ups in the bathroom of the venue like I was training for a fight. Gavin checked in once. You good? Don't know. I said honestly. You will when the lights hit. Backstage, the nerves came in waves. I kept hearing Mara's voice. The story's more important than the songs. And for the first time, I felt afraid that maybe she was right. The lights went down. The host announced my name. Applause. Big, confident, like they were already expecting something. I walked out, guitar slung over my back like a shield I wasn't sure would hold. I played. First song, good. Second, better. But midway through the third, Window Fire, my voice cracked. Right on the chorus. I tried to push through. It cracked again. The audience shifted. I could feel it. Their attention slipping like water through fingers. I finished, barely, then walked off stage without waiting for applause. Back in the green room, I stared at my hands. They were shaking. Gavin found me 15 minutes later. Rough night, he said, sitting beside me. I nodded. I blew it. He didn't argue. Ember's still interested, he said quietly. I looked at him. That was after what happened out there? He nodded. They don't care if you're perfect, he said. They care if you belong to them. That night, back at the studio, I pulled the contract from the drawer, looked at it for the last time, then lit a match. Watched it burn in a ceramic ashtray I found in the kitchen. The edges curled, ink bleeding into flame, until nothing was left but a ring of ash and the smell of decision. I didn't sleep, but when morning came, I picked up my guitar and started writing a song called They Almost Had Me. I recorded They Almost Had Me in one take. Trey didn't even touch the faders, just hit record and let it roll. The song spilled out of me like a confession too tired to hide anymore. It wasn't perfect. My voice cracked once near the end. The D string buzzed. One lyric was slightly off rhythm, and we didn't change a damn thing. When it was over, Trey leaned back in his chair and just said, good. Gavin didn't say anything. He just slipped out and lit a cigarette on the fire escape like something heavy had just shifted. I stayed behind and stared at the waveform on the screen. That jagged little line, that was me. Raw, honest, scarred and unpolished. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I owed the world a cleaner version of myself. But honesty has a cost. 3 days later, Mara called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Nice track. Ballsy. You think you're free now, but freedom's lonely. Jay. Don't confuse applause for loyalty. Click. I deleted it, but her words stuck like gum on a boot. They followed me through the next week as we finished final mixes and Gavin started shopping the album, not to the majors, but to indies. Labels with names nobody knew but fans swore by. People who loved music, not market share. The feedback started rolling in. Too raw, too slow, too indie to chart, too polished for underground. It was like I'd built a house right between 2 cities that refused to claim me. Some nights, I sat in that little studio room and stared at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake. If maybe saying no meant saying never. Then the leak happened. It was the unmixed version of Window Fire, posted anonymously. Low quality, but real. It went viral. Not Beyonce viral, street viral. Subreddit threads. College radio stations. Someone made a bootleg vinyl press and sold it at an art market in Portland. I only found out because a fan tagged me in a photo of the record, scrawled with a Sharpie. This sounds like someone trying not to drown. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Gavin was furious. This isn't the rollout we planned, he said, pacing like a man who hadn't paced in years. This is chaos. It's honest, I said. Honest doesn't feed a team, Jay. He was right and wrong at the same time. We traced the leak back to a freelance engineer who'd helped on one session. He apologized. Said he just wanted more people to hear it. Said he didn't mean to blow up my name. Trey wanted to sue. Gavin wanted to bury it. But me? I didn't want to hide anymore. So I tweeted, yeah, that's my song. No, it wasn't supposed to drop like that. Yes, I still mean every word. Hashtag Windowfire. It exploded. By morning, hashtag Windowfire was trending. Thousands of reposts. Fan covers. A graffiti artist in Detroit painted the lyrics on a bridge and tagged me in it. Someone else posted a clip of their little sister listening to it on loop while staring out the window like she'd just been betrayed by life. That's when I knew it had reached something real. Gavin didn't fight me after that. "This isn't how I do it," he said, "but it's working." So we ride the wave. 3 days later, I got a call from KCRB, a local public station with deep roots and an even deeper reach. They wanted me for a live on-air set. Full band, 45 minutes. Interview after. Trey booked the session, and Gavin said something I didn't expect. "You're not the same guy I found on that corner," he said. No, that guy played like he had nothing to lose. You're about to play like you've got everything to prove. The day of the broadcast, I wore my oldest hoodie, torn elbow, ink stain on the front pocket. I didn't do it to make a point. I did it because I needed to remember the weight of the sidewalk. The set went smooth. The sound was tight. The station manager whispered, "You're gonna break big," as I walked off. During the interview, the host leaned in and asked, "What do you want people to feel when they hear your songs?" I paused. Then I said, "I want them to feel like they're not alone. And I want them to know that some of the best things in life happen right after you say no to the worst offers." That clip got shared just as fast as the song. By that weekend, I got invited to play Stillhouse Sessions, a stripped-back, film-style performance series streamed by one of the most respected indie curators on the web. The same day, I got a text from my dad. We hadn't spoken in 4 years. It just said, "Heard your voice today. I get it now. Proud of you." I sat on the roof for hours after that. No music, no phone, just wind and quiet. And the realization that somehow, this chaos was turning into a career. But with that came pressure. Interviews, photo shoots, offers from festivals and blogs, and people who swore they'd loved you since before the leak. And in the middle of it all, something small started to bend. Not break, just bend. A voice in my head that whispered, "Don't lose this. Don't mess it up. Don't go back." And maybe that's why, the night before Stillhouse Sessions, when I got a DM from an unverified account that read, "The next step is never forward," I didn't sleep, didn't breathe right, because suddenly, this didn't feel like success anymore. It felt like a setup. The Stillhouse Sessions were filmed in a decommissioned textile factory, high ceilings, exposed rafters, the kind of place where every sound either died too fast or lived forever. Trey helped me set up. Gavin wasn't there. He said he had a thing, which was strange, because Gavin didn't miss things. The camera guys were polite. The engineer checked levels. The director told me to play like it's the last time you'll ever sing. I did. We did Window Fire, Rust in the Rain, and they almost had me. But the last one? I stripped it all the way down, just voice and guitar. It hurt, in the best way. After the session, I stepped outside to breathe. The air smelled like rust and possibility. That's when I got the second message. Same unverified account. This time, "Don't trust the man behind the glass." I stared at it, typed a reply, deleted it, typed again. "Who is this?" No response. I showed it to Trey later that night. He read it once, frowned. "You think this is about Gavin?" "I don't know. But it's the second one. First one came before the session. You get stalkers now," he said with a shrug. "Means you made it." But he didn't sound convinced. That night, Gavin called. "Nice work on Stillhouse," he said. "Fans are already clipping the ending." "You weren't there," I said. He didn't answer for a second. "I watch live," he replied finally. "Sometimes it's better when I'm not in the room." There was a pause. Then I said, "Someone's sending me messages." Another pause. Shorter. "What kind of messages?" "Cryptic ones." "One said not to trust you." He exhaled. I could hear it over the line like a weight dropping. "You believe them?" I didn't answer. "I've put everything into this project," he said, quietly. "You know that, right?" "Yeah." I turned down 3 label deals that would have made me double my cut, because they wanted to tweak your sound, wanted to ghostwrite your story. You know why I said no? "Because you're tired of suits?" "No," he said. "Because I actually believe in you. Don't make me regret that." Then he hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time after. That night, I couldn't shake the message. I opened my laptop, searched through old press clippings, interviews, blogs. Anything with Gavin Rourke's name. I found one article buried. A local zine from 6 years ago. A lawsuit. Former artist. Said Gavin shelved a record after the artist refused to change his song. Sued for breach of contract. Settled out of court. NDA after that. I checked the name. Tice Brennan. Never heard of him. His stuff had vanished off streaming. No socials. No recent credits. I searched deeper. Found a single SoundCloud link. Buried. Archived. One song. It was raw. Acoustic. Same studio tone I remembered from my early sessions. A lyric jumped out. He said, "Don't worry. We'll fix it in post." He just forgot to say what it was. It felt like a ghost whispering into my ribs. Next morning, I confronted Gavin. His office. Door open. Light low. Coffee untouched. "You ever work with Tice Brennan?" He blinked. Didn't even try to dodge. "Yeah. Years ago." "What happened?" He flinched. He got scared of what was coming. Success. Pressure. Attention. Started rewriting songs until they didn't sound like him anymore. Then blamed me when they didn't land. "You shelved his record." "Because it wasn't his anymore," he said. "He turned it into something safe, and I don't do safe." I sat down across from him. "And if I flinch?" He met my eyes. Then we shelf yours too. Just like that. No threat. No edge. Just a man who'd drawn a line and dared me to cross it. I left without another word. Back in the studio, Trey was working on a new mix. You okay? He asked. No idea. Good, he said. That means you're still in it. I started writing again that night. Different kind of song. Something sharp. Less confessional. More observation. About manipulation. About being molded. About not knowing whose fingerprints were on your spine until it was too late. I called it cutouts. Trey heard the demo and said, "This one feels dangerous." It is. We tracked it the next day. Gavin didn't show up, didn't call, didn't text. We finished the song anyway. When we played it back, Trey said nothing, just leaned forward and hit export. 2 days later, cutouts leaked. Same anonymous account, same low bitrate rip, but this time, it spread faster. A wave. Fans called it a warning. One music blog called it a direct shot at the industry godfathers who sign you smiling and sell you silent. Gavin didn't respond, but then, a week later, I got the final message. No handle, no preview, just a text on my personal phone. Ask him what happened in Baton Rouge. I froze. Because that city wasn't on any press sheet, wasn't in any bio, wasn't in anything Gavin had ever told me, but it was there, now. Between us. Like a crack waiting for weight. I needed to know. Because something told me. Whatever happened in Baton Rouge. It never stopped happening. The next morning, I knocked on Gavin's door. Harder than I meant to. The studio was dead quiet. Even Trey wasn't around. Just me, the echo, and a question I couldn't ignore anymore. Gavin opened the door in sweats and a faded hoodie. First time I'd ever seen him look regular. You know why I'm here, I said. He didn't pretend not to. Just stepped aside. Come in. We sat in silence for a while. The kind that feels like it belongs to a different century. Then I said it. What happened in Baton Rouge? He rubbed his eyes like someone who'd waited a long time to be asked. There was a girl, he said finally. 17. Genius songwriter. Name was Marnie Greer. I found her on a back porch open mic outside of Lafayette. I brought her to the city, produced her first EP. It was good, scary good, honest, fragile, unpolished, but something real. I leaned in, didn't blink. She got offers right away. Indie labels, sync deals, hell, even a docuseries. But she didn't want to play the game. She just wanted to write, to be left alone with her songs. He paused. I didn't leave her alone. He stood up, started pacing, words heavier now. I pushed hard, told her this was the moment, that the industry doesn't wait, that you get one window, and then it's gone. She signed. I asked. He nodded. 2 days before she turned 18, and she tried to keep up. Studio schedules, promo shoots, interviews she wasn't ready for. I thought I was helping her toughen up. His voice cracked, the smallest bit. She collapsed in a hotel room 2 weeks before the tour. Overdose. Not fatal, but close enough to rearrange her brain. Her voice, she lost half an octave. Her hands shake now when she plays. I sat still, the air buzzing in my ears. She lives in Baton Rouge with her sister, he said. Teaches music to middle schoolers. Won't take my calls. I didn't speak. He looked at me, eyes raw. I'm telling you because I see that same edge in you. The need, the drive, the kind that makes you mistake pain for progress. And I'm scared, Jay. Scared you'll let me do it again. Are you doing it again? I asked. His silence was answer enough. I left the room. Trey was in the hallway. You heard. I asked. He nodded. I always wondered why Baton Rouge made him flinch. Later that night, I packed my gear and left the studio. No dramatic exit, no confrontation, just a silent retreat. Because some chapters end with quiet instead of fireworks. I stayed off socials for a few days. No posts, no music, just walking the city and letting myself miss it. The version of the dream that hadn't yet been touched by suits and ghosts and backstories written in closed-door meetings. Then one morning, I checked my DMs. A message. Unverified. Same vibe. Just one sentence. She teaches at Bienville Middle. Asked for Miss Greer. I booked a bus ticket the same day. The ride to Baton Rouge took 19 hours. Cheap, loud, and honest. Every mile felt like a step towards something that would either break me or put me back together. I found the school. Low brick building, chipped paint, laughter bouncing off chain-link fences. I walked to the front office and asked for Miss Greer. She came out 5 minutes later, late 20s. Auburn hair, kind eyes. She looked me up and down, cautious. You're the singer. I am. She nodded like she'd already known. We sat outside under a shady tree. I told her everything. Gavin, the songs, the offers, the leak, the wait. She listened, patient, silent. When I finished, she asked one thing. Do you still want it? Yeah, I said, but I want it on my terms. She smiled, soft and sad. Then make sure they're your terms before the ink dries. I stood to leave. She said, tell Gavin I don't hate him, but I don't forgive him either. I nodded. Back in the city, I met with Trey, told him I was walking, not from music, from Gavin. He didn't argue. I figured, he said. I'm coming with you. What? I produce songs, man, not damage. We launched our own label. Low budget, high heart. I dropped cutouts officially under our imprint. Then Window Fire. Then they almost had me. The album dropped 4 months later. It didn't chart, not at first, but it reached. Every week, I got messages from kids in basements, from women in rehab, from guys who worked midnight shifts and said, "This sounds like how I feel when I clock out." We played backyards, bars, tiny venues where the walls sweat and the air never quite clears. And slowly, it grew. By the end of the year, NPR called the album a quiet rebellion wrapped in steel strings. And on the last night of our first real tour, in a half-full theater in Denver, I looked out over the crowd and said, "I used to play on a sidewalk with a milk crate and a song I didn't know anyone would ever hear. Now I've got you, and you've got this." Then I played Rust in the Rain. Halfway through, someone in the front row held up a sign. They almost had me too. I stopped singing, just smiled, because I knew they never would again.